So Peter, thanks for coming along to this coaching session to talk about a challenge that was something relating to when you were ahead. And just tell us a bit about what the topic you wanted to bring was.
Yeah, I'm sure this will be a familiar topic to anyone that works in education. It's those difficult conversations, those conversations with challenging parents,
Mm.
which is part and parcel of the job. But it's an issue that 30 years working in schools was always a challenge for me personally, and it's something that a topic that I wish I'd probably had more coaching on at the time and had that opportunity to explore why it was such a challenge and why it had at times an impact on me that in itself was a challenge and that I found difficult to cope with at times. So it's that kind of difficult, challenging conversation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And so you're going to go back into this past topic that you had to deal with when you were a serving head. But talking about it today as a former head, where do you want to be on this topic in half an hour's time?
I think it will just be helpful to sort of reflect on that issue.
Mm.
I suppose to in some ways clarify whether or not there possibly was more I could have done in terms of dealing with those situations, in terms of managing the impact on myself. I think it would be helpful to reflect on that, but also it might be something that I can take forwards into what I do in the future, because I'm still in a world of education, and there are still challenging conversations, difficult conversations to be had. I think that's inevitable, and in personal life as well. It's something that we all face because we have relationships, and sometimes those relationships are complex. So yeah, sort of a bit of sort of being able to reflect on it in a little bit more detail, because I didn't really reflect on it fully at the time, and also if there are any lessons to be learned that would be helpful to take forward.
Okay, thank you for that. And given that, you say could be lessons for the future. What's important about this as a topic for you to work on?
Because it's about relationships, I think. Whether consciously or not, that's always something that's been a fascination for me, and I think that has impacted on why I end up in education and working in school environments, why I then had that passion for coaching. It's something that seems to be a good space for me as an individual, is having those relationships with people, whether that's with the pupils in the school, my colleagues, governors, the local communities around the school, my coachees, the people that I'm now helping in terms of their adult learning. So I'm constantly in that space where relationships and communication and conversations are the cornerstone of what I do. So I think that's why it feels that it's important for me and matters to me.
Okay, thank you. And when you start talking about it, going back into these ones, what feelings does it already start to provoke for you?
A little bit of anxiety, actually, when I was thinking about this, because I think you automatically, the first thing you do is you go to the worst cases, and to put this into context, the vast majority of my relationships with parents at all of the schools that I've worked at were hugely positive.
Yes.
But there were those small number, and especially I think, not especially, but I suppose working in the independent sector, there's a different expectation from some parents. So yeah, I mean, I immediately thought about probably the worst example, but then others that I think there's a frustration there that, in spite of what I thought were my best efforts at the time, those parents still went away unhappy, and sometimes with some direct personal slurs towards me. Now, I didn't believe they were justified, but it still it's still there. It still happened, and it still had an impact. So I think, you know, it does bring back those feelings of anxiety and concern and worry, but also a feeling of frustration that that's how those particular conversations ended.
Yes.
The outcome wasn't what I hoped it would be.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that sense of disappointment and frustration.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay. All right. So we've got a really clear topic on the table and some reasons that you want to work on it. My first question was going to be what proportion of these conversations go like that, but you've already alluded to that, which is really helpful.